The last thing that we read was that Poppy just found out that Aerith is not a meat eater. She just found out that he is not a meat eater and that he hates meat. He said, push the puke switch. I don't know what that means, but he's pretty much saying, push the barf button, and that's disgusting. I don't like eating meat. And we found out that he's a pretty funny guy, right? He's funny, he's gentle, he's nice, he's goofy. So let's see what else we can find about him. So the last thing that we read was that Poppy is telling Aerith about her going to Newhouse, and Aerith is saying, "You ask Mr. Okex for protection? You listen to him for protection? Come on, nobody's gonna mess with me." And then so Poppy is telling Aerith, "Isn't there anything that you love? Isn't there anything that you love?" Because she just found out that he just let his family just leave him, right? Because porcupines, they live alone, and so he had a wife, he had kids, but eventually porcupines, that's just what they do. They go off and they live alone. And so now Poppy's asking you, well, isn't there anything that you love? If you don't love your wife, you don't love your kids, I mean, isn't there anything that you love? Let's see what happens next. You have a quick question, Esmeralda? Okay, well, you're going to have to just listen, okay, for now. You have an extra, you brought your book? Okay, give it to, go ahead and grab it from there. Okay. All right. So she is asking him, is there anything that you love? And this is what he says. We are on page 105. We are about right here in the middle of the book. Middle. I don't know if you can see that. Right there where she says, isn't there anything that you love? Okay, isn't there anything in the world you love, really love? At the word love, the look on Aerith's face turned dreamy. He sighed. Yes, he admitted, there is. Who is it? Not who, Poppy. Salt. 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 I can't get enough of it. I am mad for it. I'd die for it. It's because of my liver. Someone told me I don't care. I love it. Rock salt, sea salt, sweat salt, any kind of salt. He licked his lips. Don't happen to have any on ya, do you? I'm sorry, I don't. You were talking about Newhouse. You have any idea what's there? That's what I need to find out. I'll tell you one thing that's there. What? A chunk of salt as big as me. Humans put it out for deer. Can you believe it? Deer. But it's on a high steel pole, so I can't get it. What a waste. Oh, but I do dream about it. I do. He closed his eyes. I think Ragweed would have liked you, Poppy said with admiration. But even as she spoke, a great wave of exhaustion swept over her. Please, Aerith, would you mind very much if I took a nap? Poppy, you can do whatever you want. But if I were you, I wouldn't sleep where you're standing. As I told you before, it's my toilet, and it's too stinky, even for me. Okay, chapter 13, boys and girls. So we just found out that Aerith loves salt. Sea salt, rock salt, sweat salt, any kind of salt. He loves salt. So let's continue here and see what happens next with Aerith. Okay, chapter 13, early morning. We're on page 107. Within the log, but not too far from its entrance, Poppy found herself a soft place to sleep. There, curled up in a tight ball with her tail tip parked right below her nose, she felt safe enough to sleep. When she awoke after a long, sound slumber, it was dark and quiet. She got up slowly and stretched her aching muscles, then looked about for some sign of Aerith. The old porcupine was nowhere to be seen. Was he gone for good? Not likely. Poppy knew, but he might be gone for hours. She also knew she was hungry. Cautiously, she made her way to the log's opening. It was night, and she could see neither sky nor stars. A silver sheen of moonlight made lace of the canopy of trees above, even while transforming the ground into a carpet of velvet gray. She sniffed the air, mingled with the sharp scent of pine and fir. I lost my place. She breathed in delicious hints of good things to eat. Nuts, berries, seeds, fragrant flowers, tender roots. There were sounds too. The creak, the groan of trees, the sudden shrill cries of animals, the occasional fuzz buzz of passing bugs. Poppy could only feel astonishment. This was not Dimwood, the forbidding. This was Dimwood, the beautiful, the luxuriant world that teemed with life, a universe that held more than she had ever seen or dreamed of, a paradise that filled her with an almost aching desire to dance through it and see more. Trembling with excitement, Poppy was about to take a step away from the log when she chanced to look up. On the gray, lifeless tree with a hole on its side, an acorn tossed from where she was, perched a brooding owl. The moment she saw the owl, Poppy darted back into the safety of the log. There she stayed, her heart thudding. Had the owl seen her? She did not think so. Could it, in fact, be Mr. Oakex? If it was, how could he have tracked her? But perhaps it was another owl. She had to know. In any case, her elation was gone. The forest was not to be for her. She sighed at the fright she felt. Poppy tried to calm herself. First, she pondered over her discovery that Mr. Oakex had lied about porcupines. At least she did not have to be frightened about them. In spite of herself, she giggled when she thought about Aerith, such a likable, unlikable creature. Then she thought of what else Aerith had told her, that Mr. Oakex was actually afraid of porcupines. The notion that the owl was afraid of anything gave Poppy considerable pleasure. Perhaps he was afraid of other things as well. So Poppy thought again about her suspicion that there was something at Newhouse that alarmed the owl. Oh, if only there was, if only she could find it. Feeling more hopeful, Poppy returned to the log's threshold to wait for Aerith. She wanted to take another look at the owl, but was afraid to. Instead, she sat, content for the moments to gaze out at the beautiful forest. So, boys and girls, right now we just read that Poppy is still under the suspicion. She still suspects that there's something at Newhouse that Mr. Okax does not want her to see. Okay? So let's keep reading. We're on top of page 110. The owl Poppy had seen was indeed Mr. Okax. He was perched upon the entrance to his home, flexing his sharp talons and staring gloomily into the forest. Now and again, he swiveled his head and blinked, then clacked his beak. Hungry, he wished that something, anything, would reveal itself by moving. Once, just out of the corner of his eye, he thought something moved at the entrance to the old log that lay not far from his snag, but it was gone so fast he could not be sure. Was it the porcupine? He hoped not. He hated Aerith. Just the thought of him made Mr. Okax drop down inside his snag. Better to sit in darkness and listen than deal with that creature. If something came by, he would hear it. When are you leaving for Newhouse? Aerith asked Poppy. The old porcupine had made his way back to the hollow tree before sunup. Bits of bark were stuck around his lips, chin, and whiskers. Soon, Poppy replied evasively. Good, Aerith said. You're a sweet kid, but I like my privacy. Aerith, Poppy began after a moment, I know you want me to go, and I want to go too. But when I looked out before, I think I saw an owl. On that snag just beyond my door? Asked Aerith. The what? The old tree with a broken top. Poppy nodded. There was an owl sitting there, she said. I was told Mr. Okax lives in Dimwood. Could that be him? Aerith snorted. Follow me. Somewhat anxiously, Poppy trailed the porcupine out of the log. That the snag you're talking about? Aerith said, pointing. Yes. Well, then that's where Okax lives. Poppy jumped back. There? Absolutely. Don't you mind? Poppy whispered, edging closer to Aerith. Nah, he's a jerk. Anyway, he doesn't get near me. But he rules this whole territory. Him? Rule? Maggot milk. But it's true. Poppy, Aerith snorted, there are lots of creatures who live around here. Some are mean, like Okax. Some are sweet, like me. Nobody rules. But he says he does. Oh, bees burp. Just because you're scared of someone doesn't mean you have to believe him. Aerith turned toward the snag. Okax! He bellowed. Okax! No, Poppy cried. Don't! It was too late. Mr. Okax popped up in his snag hole. In a panic, Poppy scrambled to hide behind Aerith's tail. What do you want? Mr. Okax demanded. I've got a mouse here by the name of Poppy who says you've been calling yourself Dimwood, ruler of Dimwood. Is that true? Instead of answering, Mr. Okax shifted his head, trying to catch a glimpse of Poppy. When he saw her timidly peeking from behind Aerith's tail, he jutted his head forward, opening his eyes wide, and hissed. Aerith laughed. She told me that you claimed porcupines eat mice. that you protect them from me. Kex, do you believe that garbage? Do you just like the way it tastes in your mouth when you say it? Suddenly, Mr. Okax's eyes narrowed. Where did you get that earring, girl? He shrieked at Poppy. That's something I ate. Poppy became so frightened she began to back up. What I eat is mine, girl. Mine. Mr. Okax screamed. Listen here, Okax, Aerith snapped. This mouse has as much right as you do to go and do what she wants. I don't want you messing with her. Mr. Okax, ignoring Aerith, only cried, Poppy, you listen to me. I don't know what you're doing here, but you might as well know the only way you'll ever get back to Grey House is when I dump your dead carcass on your father's front porch. With that, he clacked his beak, then dropped down inside the tree. Alarmed and furious, Poppy ran forward and began beating her clenched paws on Aerith's nose. You lummox! She cried. You lump! You rattling pincushion! The porcupine only grinned. Why did you tell him about me? Poppy shouted. Didn't you hear what he said? He's going to kill me. Oh, he's nothing but feathers. He doesn't bother me. But you've got quills, Poppy protested. Jealousy don't become you, girl. Aerith, Poppy implored, I have to get to Newhouse. It's a matter of keeping my family alive. You're pretty small to be a heroine. Poppy looked down at her toes. That's not the only reason. Not the only reason I'm going. Oh, it's also because of Ragweed. Who? Ragweed. He was my friend. Poppy sniffed. See, he wanted to ask me to marry him atop Bannock Hills. Said it was the most romantic spot around. I did want to marry him, so I said I'd go, but only after asking permission of Mr. Okax. That's the rule. But Ragweed said, where's the romance when you have to ask permission? So we went without asking. When Ragweed and I got to the top, he did ask me to marry him, but before I could answer, Mr. Okax killed him. Then, later, the owl said it was because Ragweed and I went to the hill without permission that my family couldn't move to Newhouse. When they heard that, most of them, blamed me. Poppy pushed the tears away. So you see, I'm going to Newhouse to prove our being on the hill had nothing to do with Mr. Okax's refusal. If I don't prove it, my family can't go to Newhouse and will be ruined. I'll be ruined. So I have to go. Only now that you've told Mr. Okax I'm here, he'll follow me and keep me from finding the truth. You've got to come with me. Aerith shook his head. Sorry, kid. This is your business, not mine. Anyway, I need to get some sleep. Ooh. Aerith turned and began to move toward the log. Aerith, Poppy cried out. If you got me to Newhouse, I'd get that salt for you. Aerith stopped short and spun about. A dreamy look filled his eyes. The Salt Lick? From Newhouse? The whole thing? You would? Really? Poppy placed a paw over her heart. I swear. Aerith grinned. Now you're talking, girl. Let's move it. Without a moment's hesitation, he began to lumber through the woods. Poppy took one look at the snag in the dawn light, then tore after the porcupine. The two of them had barely gone when Mr. Okax popped out of his hole. Having heard the entire conversation, he wasn't sure which he felt more, fury or fear. But he did know he had to stop Poppy. He launched himself into the air. Okay, boys and girls, and this is where we're going to stop our video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great, great day. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so you will see me at 9 o'clock for our morning meeting, and then you will have library. You will have library at 1:30. At 1:30, you have specialist at 1:30. I will see you tomorrow, boys and girls. Have a great, great rest of your day.